So are you ready to really dive into this? We're talking learning English faster.
Faster, yeah.
Not just the usual who take a class advice.
Right.
We've got some research, some interesting tips that you can actually use. Think of it as your secret weapon, your shortcut to actually understanding English better and getting fluent faster.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found really fascinating is how much emphasis people put on making these huge changes, right?
Sad.
Like, oh, I'm going to completely overhaul everything.
I can move to England.
Yeah, and sometimes it's these tiny little habits that actually end up making the biggest difference.
Exactly. Like weaving English into your everyday routine. It's almost like a little side quest you can do in your life, right? One of the sources was talking about starting your day with English. So maybe you're having your coffee, you read a quick article in English, you're on your commute, you listen to a podcast snippet, little things like that.
And that's the perfect example of the compounding effect. Think of it like putting a tiny bit of money into a savings account every day.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like much at first,
Yeah.
but over time that interest builds up and you're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
It's the same with language. Even just a few minutes a day can really make a big difference in the long run.
So small, consistent actions. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, but then there's this whole idea of labeling your world in English. Isn't that a little bit too much? Like walking around your house putting sticky notes on everything.
It sounds intense, I know.
Yeah.
But there's actually a lot of research to back up this idea of visual reinforcement.
Really?
Yeah. It's not about labeling every single thing in your house.
Yeah.
It's more about choosing those words that you're really actively trying to learn
Oh, okay.
and putting them in a place where you're going to see them every day.
Right.
And that can actually really help it stick.
So it's like a personalized vocabulary scavenger hunt in your own house.
Exactly.
I kind of love that idea. But what about something that's a little less, sticky mode intensive?
Okay, so think about this, right?
Yeah.
We all watch TV shows. We listen to music.
All the time.
One of the sources talked about using entertainment to your advantage.
Okay, but isn't that just passive listening?
Right.
Because I've watched tons of movies in English, and it hasn't made me fluent.
The key is to make it active listening.
Right.
So choose something that you actually enjoy watching or listening to.
Oh, okay.
Because you're not going to stick with it if you don't like it.
Right, yeah.
But then actively engage with it. So use subtitles strategically.
Okay.
Pause if you need to look up a word.
Oh.
Even try something called shadowing.
Shadowing. What's that?
So you basically mimic what the actors are saying.
Oh, so you repeat it.
Exactly. And it might feel a little silly at first,
Yeah, I can imagine.
but it's actually really good for developing your pronunciation
Okay.
and getting used to the natural flow of the language.
So we're labeling our houses, we're shadowing actors. Are we going full method acting to learn English? What other unconventional tips are out there?
Well, one of the sources actually recommends reading aloud.
What?
Not just in your head,
Oh.
but actually speaking the words out loud.
Out loud.
Yeah.
Oh, that's you'd get in trouble for that in a library.
Yeah, probably not the best place to practice.
Yeah.
But it actually engages more of your senses when you do that.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like a workout for your mouth muscles,
Yeah.
Getting them used to forming the sounds of English.
Yeah, okay. So you're actually taking the words off the page
Yeah.
and bringing them into the real world.
Exactly.
But speaking of the real world, how do we actually use English out there, in real situations?
Yeah, that's where it really matters, right?
Yeah.
I know it can be intimidating, but one thing that all of the experts agree on is the importance of pushing past that fear of making mistakes.
It's easy to say that, though.
It is.
It's hard to actually do it.
I-
But I get it. It's like anything else. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll get.
Exactly.
But what about those times when you're not in a situation to practice with a real person?
Right. Well, there are some tech tools that can be really helpful.
Oh, okay.
You know those language learning apps like Duolingo and Memrise?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
They basically gamify the process so it feels less like studying and more like...
Like a game.
Yeah.
I always thought those were kind of gimmicky. Do they really work?
They can actually be surprisingly effective.
Really?
Yeah, especially for building vocabulary and getting used to grammar structures.
Whoa.
They're not a magic solution, but they can be a really fun way to supplement your other learning efforts.
Okay, cool. So we've got apps. We're practicing our pronunciation. But what about actually finding people to talk to in English?
Right.
That's always been my biggest hurdle.
Well, this is where the idea of finding your tribe comes in.
Your tribe.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, there are all these online forums, language exchange platforms, even social media groups that are dedicated to learning English.
Oh, so it's like a built-in support system.
Exactly.
People who get the struggles and can cheer you on.
Right, and it gives you a chance to actually put all of that practice into action. You can have real conversations with people and you learn from each other's mistakes.
Cool. So we've got our study plan sorted. We've found our tribe.
We're ready to go.
But how do we stay motivated? Motivation can be such a roller coaster.
It really can.
Yeah.
And this is where those tiny habits that we were talking about earlier become so important.
Oh, okay.
Consistency is key.
Consistency.
Even just 15 minutes a day, every day, is better than cramming for an hour once a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like building a habit.
Yeah.
Like brushing your teeth or going for a run.
Exactly.
Okay.
So find those little pockets of time in your day.
Okay.
You know, maybe during your commute, while you're cooking dinner, even while you're waiting in line.
Oh.
And use those moments to practice.
So you're kind of turning those like dead moments into little mini English lessons.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get creative. One of the sources even suggested incorporating English into activities that you already enjoy doing.
Okay.
So let's say you love to cook.
Yeah.
Try following recipes in English.
Oh, that's a good idea.
If you're a music buff, listen to English language podcasts or audiobooks.
No, so it's like tricking your brain into learning without even realizing it.
Exactly. But what about those times when you kind of hit a wall?
Okay, yeah.
You know, the grammar just doesn't make sense or you feel like you're not making any progress.
Yeah, we've all been there.
It's completely normal. Everyone hits those plateaus at some point. And one of the keys is to remember why you started learning English in the first place.
Oh.
What are your goals? What do you want to be able to do with this language?
Oh, so it's like having that why in mind to keep you going.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to shake things up a bit if one method isn't working for you. Try something different. There are so many resources out there, you know, textbooks, apps, online courses, language exchange partners. It's amazing.
Wow, so it's like you have a whole toolkit of options.
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest takeaways from all this is it's not just about studying grammar rules and memorizing vocabulary lists.
It's about immersing yourself in the language and finding ways to make it a part of your life.
So it's about more than just learning English. It's about experiencing English.
Exactly. It's about exploring the culture, connecting with people, and opening yourself up to a whole new world of possibilities.
And that sounds a lot more exciting than just cramming vocabulary words, right?
Way more fun.
Yeah. But with all this talk about immersion and exploration, I think it can also feel a little overwhelming. Like, where do you even begin?
Well, that's where setting realistic goals comes in.
Okay.
It's really easy to get caught up in that I want to be fluent by next month thing. But that can actually be really discouraging.
Oh, so instead of like this big overwhelming goal,
Right.
it's better to break it down into smaller pieces.
Exactly. Think like micro goals, you know?
Micro goals, okay.
Maybe it's learning 5 new words every day or having a short conversation in English a couple times a week.
Yeah.
It's about making progress that you can actually see and feel good about.
I like this, like those fitness trackers that count your steps.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, oh, I'm going to walk just a little bit further today.
Exactly. And, you know, don't forget to celebrate those little wins along the way.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, it's easy to focus on what you haven't mastered yet.
Yeah.
But it's important to acknowledge all those little victories that you're making.
Yeah.
Keep yourself motivated and build that sense of accomplishment.
Okay. So we've talked about a lot of different things today.
We have.
Everything from sneaky little study hacks to like embracing the fact that you're going to make mistakes.
Yep.
If there's just one thing that our listeners should take away from all of this, what would it be?
I think the most important thing is to find joy in the process.
Okay.
Learning a language shouldn't feel like a chore.
Right.
It should be an adventure.
Yeah. Like if you're not having fun, you're not going to stick with it.
Exactly.
Right.
So, you know, find what sparks your interest, whether it's movies, music, podcasts, connecting with other learners online.
Yeah.
Make it your own. Make it fun.
So to all of our listeners out there who are on this language learning journey,
Yeah.
embrace the adventure. Find what you love.
Find your tribe.
Find your tribe.
Yeah.
And remember, every little step that you take is bringing you closer to your goal.
And you know, we're here to cheer you on every step of the way.
That wraps up our deep dive into the world of rapid English learning.
Yeah.
We hope you've learned some practical tips, maybe found some new motivation, and maybe even had a laugh or two along the way.
And remember, fluency isn't a destination, it's a journey.
So enjoy the ride.
Exactly.
Until next time, happy learning.
Happy learning.
And hey, if you try out any of these tips, let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
We love hearing about your language learning adventures.